This has happened throughout history. This is not the only time this has happened. It happened in, I think it marks, what this marks to me is the end of the American Empire. And because that's what happened with the end of the Roman Empire. And what happened at the end of the Roman Empire, the leaders of Rome debased the currency. They were taking silver coins and gold coins, they were filing them and melting them and doing all these goofy things. They were fighting wars, we're still fighting wars that we couldn't afford, they couldn't afford. And they started taxing the worker. And back in Roman times, the worker was the farmer or the yeoman. And so the government, those fat asses up there, were just taxing the crap out of the worker. And pretty soon the worker says, why should I work? Because, I've got to just keep giving my money to the government. And pretty soon they call them Roman circuses, so they're the big coliseums, and they were feeding people to lions and all that other stuff. Today we have the Super Bowl and the March Madness, and everything's the same, it's the same. My concern is it is the end of the American Empire.
Yeah.
And very simply is because our Federal Reserve Bank, our Treasury, and our government has messed up the US dollar so much that they have to find a way to keep people happy. And so they want to just, quote unquote, print money, which they are doing.
Yeah.
So the stimulus money they print, everybody says, oh God, it's because they shut the economy down and this and that. And everybody says, yeah, so they're going to give me PPP and all of this stuff. So just remember this, that money comes from production.
Yeah.
And when we pay people not to produce, which is PPP and all that, we're just paying them not to revolt. And that's what happened during the Roman times. And so that's why I say it's the end of the American Empire, because our money is corrupt. So that's basically it. Now, would I take the money? Absolutely. As we were talking about it, don't fight the government, don't fight the Fed, don't fight politics. If they're going to give me $1,000, I'll take it, but I would convert it into either gold, silver, or Bitcoin. The more the government pay, and this is globally, it's not just the US, or it's not a racial thing. They're just paying everybody not to work today because the monetary system is coming apart. But you've got to be smarter than the government, which is not that hard to do. And it's just coming apart right now. And, like when the Fed talks about stimulus checks, well, the only people that get rich are Bezos and Zuckerberg. They got all that money for free. It goes into them via BlackRock, a hedge fund, and it goes straight into Wall Street. And then the guys who own Facebook and Amazon get richer. You see, every time you get a hot little dollar or a peso or a yen or a yuan in your hand, you have the power to determine what you do with it.
Yeah.
And so, when I was in my 20s, that's when I started buying gold and silver. And today, I'm still buying gold and silver. And nothing's changed. I just don't trust my government. If you trust your government, have a good time. Yeah, UBI is a small part of it. What they're doing is they're propping up zombies. And zombies are companies that are mismanaged. Like Hertz right now is completely bankrupt. Boeing is bankrupt. The cruise ships are bankrupt. Ford's bankrupt. And the Fed, the Treasury, and Wall Street keep propping them up. Well, it makes it harder for your generation. There's other people that say, well, I deserve that money. If the rich are getting the money, so should I. I said, yeah, well, you can justify it all you want, but it's still up to you what you're going to do with the money and what you're going to do with your future. Now it's all coming apart at the seams. So gold, silver, Bitcoin, they're not the answer, but they're kind of an insurance policy against the incompetence of our leaders. You know, when you guys were born at 9/11, then you ran into 2008, the subprime crash, and now you guys run into the Corona crash. We talk about it at Rich Dad. You know, you want to be anti-fragile. You know, the harder it's on you, the stronger you want to get. And it's pretty tragic. But anyway, that's life. And the other side of it, like I've said to your generation, you have more power today with that iPhone than any other generation in history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That iPhone, is that 2007 or 2009 it came out? Man, you guys have so much power to be the best entrepreneurs in the world. And it only costs about $1,000 for an iPhone. You know what I mean? That's dirt cheap. So there's a lot of good things happening for you guys, except if you went to school and you're taught by those incompetent school teachers, like my poor dad. The Federal Reserve Bank is a socialist or a communist organization, but they'll never tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
The more I studied it, you know, when I was about 25 years old, I started studying this stuff. And the more I studied, the more I felt I needed a shower. You know, I mean, they were just lying to us.
Mm-hmm.
But when the market crashed in 2020, March of 2020, only 16% of the teachers, firefighters, and police officers' pension was funded, 16%. So they had $16 for every 100 they owed. Now it's down to 6. They're broke. So they're covering all of this up. So they want to bring UBI in so they can just mass produce money. And then so they're going to pay people not to work so they can escape. Do you know what I mean? So, well, we gave you all this money. We gave you all this money, and they're going to escape. So that's why, you know, I say to your generation, with that iPhone, become an entrepreneur. You know, so you don't need the job security. Nothing wrong with it, but you don't want to need it, and you don't need the UBI. You don't need the paycheck. If you can get off of needing that paycheck, you're free. If you can make your own money, that's the difference. You know, there's a thing called the debt to GDP ratio.
Yeah.
So when the thing crashed in 2020 in March, the debt went up and the GDP, the gross domestic product, went down. So that's what I was saying. So we produce less, but we raised the debt up. So debt went up, GDP went down. And if this coronavirus comes back, which I think it will, we're bankrupt.
Yeah.
Because the debt to GDP, once debt to GDP passes 90%, we're bankrupt. Today it's 115% debt to GDP in America. So we're already bankrupt. And so the UBI is no different than the Romans paying the Roman citizens to sit in the Colosseum and watch the Dallas Cowboys play the Green Bay Packers. You know, nothing really changes. I mean, people are that stupid, but they don't know. They really don't know. Okay.
And so would you say, I mean, with all this going on, do you think we're headed for hyperinflation?
Probably. I mean, but and it's not probably, it's what the government wants. What they're afraid of is deflation, because deflation means depression. So this thing called quantitative easing, which is printing money, that came out in 1930. You know, Bernanke thinks he did it, but he copied it in 1930. And then they have zero interest rates policy. So what that means is they print money and then they pay you nothing, no interest, zero interest rate policy. And people still say to their kids, go to school, work hard, you know, save money, and, you know, save till it hurts. It's really stupid. Mm-hmm. And that's because people cannot think, because they went to school to get that job. And if you think like an entrepreneur, you've really got to think outside the box. I hate to say this, but I think it's the end of the American empire. You know, gold and silver have been here since God created this earth. And Bitcoin is the next replacement to that. So for your generation, it really is to get outside of what mainstream media says is the right way to think, and think for yourselves.